Now, let us write the phonological rule of vowel harmony in Turkish. Previously, we have uh, stated that there are three types of the suffix vowel in Turkish. That is to say, we have a change and alternation at the level of the suffix vowel. This change is the result of the impact of the preceding stem vowel. And based on this description, we derived the following informal statement. In Turkish, the high suffix vowel assimilates to the preceding stem vowel by means of backness and rounding. That is to say, if the preceding stem vowel is plus back and minus round, the suffix vowel is plus back and minus round. If the preceding stem vowel is minus back and minus round, the suffix vowel is minus back and minus round. That is to say, assimilation takes place at the level of two distinctive features, round and back. The rule of for umlauting is simple because we tackle only a change that is exhibited by one feature, that is to say the back feature. However, here the change that the sound undergoes is exhibited by means of two distinctive features, that is to say plus and round. That's why we have three types of vowel in the suffix, three types of the vowel in the possessive suffix in Turkish. In the first two words, the suffix vowel is minus back and minus round. In the second two words, the suffix vowel is uh, minus back and plus round. In the last word, the suffix vowel is plus back and minus round. Now we are going to write a phonological rule for each vowel. Let us start with the high front and round vowel in the first two words. So we start with V, the symbol, uh, because the sound that undergoes the change is a vowel. And it is not a general vowel, it is a specific vowel. Therefore, we must give the unique identification of this vowel. It is plus high and minus low. Here we don't use the other feature back and round because the only underlying representation that we know about this suffix vowel is the fact that it is a high vowel. We don't know whether it is back or front, and we don't know whether it is round or unround. What we know about the underlying representation of this vowel that will undergo the change is that it is a high suffix vowel. Therefore, it is plus high minus low. It becomes minus back and minus round. Okay. Then we use the slash for the environment to show the context in which the change takes place. Uh, Importantly, the sound that undergoes the change follows the sound that triggers the change. The sound that undergoes the change follows the sound that causes the change. So what comes after the slash is the sound that causes the change. That is to say, the representation of the stem vowel. So we have V, it is minus back and minus round. It is minus back and minus round. The stem vowel in dish is followed by a consonant. The stem vowel in if is followed by a consonant. Therefore, it must be stated here formally by writing the symbol C. So the stem vowel is followed by C, that is to say followed by a consonant, and then followed by plus, that is to say morpheme boundary, because it is the last consonant at the end of the morpheme. And the morpheme boundary is followed by dash, and the dash stands for the position of the sound that undergoes the change, that is to say the suffix vowel. This is the rule, the phonological rule for vowel harmony in the first two words. Let us give the phonological rules of vowel harmony in the second two words. V, again plus high minus low, becomes minus back plus round when it is preceded by a stem vowel which is minus back and plus round, and this stem vowel is followed by a consonant and then followed by a morpheme boundary, and the morpheme boundary is followed by dash, which stands for the position of the sound that undergoes the change, that is to say the suffix vowel. Third, let us give the phonological rules of the last word, the phonological rule of vowel harmony in the last word. V plus high minus low becomes plus back minus round when it is preceded by the stem vowel which is plus back and minus round, and this stem vowel is followed by a consonant, and the consonant is followed by a morpheme boundary, and the morpheme boundary is followed by a dash, and the dash stands for the position of the high suffix vowel that receives the change. Up to now, we have three phonological rules for one phonological process called vowel harmony in Turkish. Okay, to collapse these rules into one rule, we need other notations. That is to say, to transmit, okay, or to summarize the three phonological rules into at least two or one phonological rule, we require more formal symbols or more formal notation. In this regard, to do so, we will appeal to alpha and beta notation. We will appeal to alpha and beta notation. Here we resort, okay, ladies and gentlemen, to collapse or to uh, uh, summarize the two phonological rules into one phonological rule. We require the use of other notation. In this regard, we introduce the alpha notation and the beta notation. These two formal notations are used for rules with variables, which mean rules with variables, that is to say, we have different features that uh, 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 encode or indicate or host the change that the sound in question undergoes. So the variable alpha is the formal means for expressing the notion has the same value as or agrees in value with. For example, we have the two features back and round. If we state alpha back and alpha round, we mean that either minus back or and minus round, or plus back and plus round. For instance, if the stem vowel is plus back or minus back and plus round or minus round respectively, the suffix vowel is plus back or minus back and plus round or minus round respectively. Such assimilation can be finally expressed by the alpha notation. By the alpha notation. Take for example V, a vowel becomes alpha back, alpha round. What does it mean? Here we have two interpretations. If we interpret the alpha in the back feature as plus, it is necessary to be plus round. If we interpret alpha in the back feature as plus, or if we assign the plus value to the alpha notation in the back feature, we must assign the plus value to the alpha notation in the round feature. So that we say if we state plus back, so we must mean plus round. If we state minus back, so we must mean minus round. That is to say that the value of the back feature agrees with the value of the round feature when we use alpha notation. Okay, when we use alpha notation, the value of the back feature agrees with the value of the round feature. If we state plus back, so we mean plus round because we have alpha. If we state minus back, we mean minus round because we have the alpha notation. So up to now here, we state that it is minus back and minus round when it follows, okay, a vowel with alphabet and alpha round. Again, the value of the back feature agrees with the value of the round feature because of the alpha notation. If we state plus back, it means plus round. If we state minus back, it means minus round. Followed by C, and then followed by morpheme boundary, and then followed by the position of the sound that undergoes the change. This rule can handle the first two words, if him. This phonological rule can explain the vowel harmony in the first two words in which we have the suffix vowel is minus back and minus round. Minus back and minus round. If we state alpha minus back, so automatically we mean minus round. So a vowel become minus back minus round when it follows minus back and minus round stem vowel, which is followed by a consonant and then followed by a morpheme boundary, then followed by the the vowel that undergoes the change. The variable beta is the formal means for expressing the notion has not the same value as or does not agree in value with. Okay, the difference between alpha and beta. Alpha here, the two values are similar. The two values used or encoded by the alpha notations are similar. If we state plus in the back feature, we mean plus in the round feature. However, in the beta notation, the values of the two features do not agree. Do not agree. The values of the two features do not agree. That is to say, the value of the back feature does not agree with the value of the back feature. Therefore, if we use, for example, alpha back, beta round, so here we mean either plus back minus round or minus back plus round. Either we mean plus back minus round or minus round plus back. So alpha, if we state that alpha back means plus back, so the value of the round feature is minus. If we state that the value of the alpha in the back feature is minus, the value encoded by beta is plus. So it is the opposite, okay? The value of beta is the opposite of the value of alpha. Alpha back and then beta round, followed by C, followed by morpheme boundary, followed by a dash. Let us put it clear, okay? The rule of vowel harmony. Okay, the rule of vowel harmony in Turkish. A vowel which is plus high minus low. We are talking about the high suffix vowel becomes a alphabet beta round, which means in the alpha we mean plus back, and in the beta feature we mean minus round, or we mean minus back and plus round. It becomes, okay, the vowel becomes either minus back and plus round, or plus back and minus round when it follows a stem vowel which is either plus back and minus round, or minus back and plus round, followed by a consonant, then followed by a morpheme boundary, then followed by the dash, which stands for the position of the sound that undergoes the change, which is the high suffix vowel. The importance of the alpha notation and the beta notation is to summarize the three phonological rules in one phonological rule, or to collapse the last phonological rule into one phonological rule. After giving the rule of vowel harmony in Turkish, we move to other phonological processes, and to describe them, and then give the informal rule, and after that we translate the informal rule into a formal phonological rule by using formal notation. Now we will deal with the nasalization. Okay, we will deal with the nasalization. We will start with a language, an African language called Kwa. It is spoken, a Kwa language spoken in the capital of Ghana. Before describing the data, I would like to explain something about the vowel inventory of this language. This language has two types of underlying vowels. Okay, it has an underlying oral vowel and an underlying nasal vowel. That is to say, the two vowels are uh, distinctive and distinctive phonemes in this language. So, in the data in A is different from the data in B by means of the suffix vowel. Okay, with respect to the suffix vowel. Notice that in this data we are deriving the plural form from the singular form. We are deriving the plural form from the singular form. That is to say, we are adding a suffix to the stem, a plural suffix to the singular stem. The plural suffix is a vowel. The plural suffix is a vowel. In the data in A, the plural suffix is an oral vowel. However, in the data in B, the plural suffix is a nasal vowel. When the vowel of the suffix is preceded by an oral vowel, it is oral. And when the plural suffix is preceded by a nasal vowel, this the vowel of the suffix is a nasalized vowel. In fact, according to this language, the underlying vowel is oral. The underlying plural suffix, the underlying plural suffix is an oral high front and round vowel. Okay. When it is preceded by a nasalized vowel, when it is attached to a stem with a nasalized final vowel, with a final nasalized vowel, this oral vowel changes its feature from minus from minus nasal to plus nasal. Look, for example, the word that mean throat. C. The final vowel is nasal. When the oral suffix vowel is attached to this stem with a final nasal vowel, the suffix vowel is influenced by the nasal vowel in the stem and changes its feature from minus nasal to plus nasal. Importantly, the sound that triggers or causes the change is the stem vowel, and the sound that receives the change is the suffix vowel. Another example of nasalization is in Korean. In Korean, look, we add in Korean we have two types of data here: data in A and data in B. We derive the past tense from the infinitive. Okay, we derive the past tense from the infinitive. The past tense suffix in Korean is ninta. The past tense suffix in Korean is ninta. Okay, when it is attached, look, to an, there is no change, an ninta, in the data in A. When it is attached to tatim, that means trim, there is no change, tatim ninta. Okay, tatim ninta. Okay, there is no change at the level of the stem and at the level of the suffix. However, in the data in B, there is alternations and there is a change. Look, the stem, that means where, is ipa. Okay, ipa. The last consonant is p, is the voiceless bilabial stop. When it is attached with the suffix ninta, which start with a nasal consonant, the stem consonant is nasalized, change its feature, okay, change its place of articulation, okay, change its manner of articulation from oral to nasal. Okay, look, im ninta, p change to m, p change to m, because of the impact of the nasal consonant of the suffix. That is to say, the consonant of the suffix influences the consonant of the stem and changes its feature from minus nasal to plus nasal, and changes its feature from minus nasal to plus nasal. Notice that the place of articulation is kept. We don't have the change at the level of the place of articulation because the nasal sound here is m and not n, and the m share the place of articulation of the consonant stem. So here we have nasalization at the level of the consonant. In the first language we have vowel nasalization, and in Korean we have consonant nasalization. That is to say, the last consonant of the stem is influenced by the first consonant of the suffix and changes its feature from minus nasal to plus nasal. This is the same thing that we have in the second word, tat, that means close. Okay, look that the last consonant in tat is the voiceless alveolar stop. It changes its feature from minus nasal to plus nasal because it becomes tan. T becomes n because of the impact of the first consonant of ninta. Importantly here, uh, 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 the sound that undergoes the change is the stem consonant, and the sound that triggers or causes the change is the suffix consonant. So, based on this description, we are going to derive the following informal rules. For qua, for the first data, for vowel nasalization, in Ga, a Kwa language, okay, in Ga, a Kwa language spoken in Accra of Ghana, the underlying plural suffix E, look, it is the phoneme, the underlying plural suffix becomes the nasal vowel when it is attached to a nasal stem vowel. When it is attached to a nasal stem vowel. This is the informal rule we derived from the description of the data given. For example, me, that means run. Okay, look, the suffix vowel, the stem vowel is nasal, plus morpheme boundary. The suffix vowel is oral. The result is the nasalization of the suffix vowel. Based on the description of the data in Korean, we give the following informal rule. In Korean, when the past tense suffix ninta is attached to the verb stem with a stop consonant followed by an or shva, the stop consonant is nasalized. So what is important here, consonant nasalization is about stop. The consonant that is nasalized in Korean here is a stop consonant. P is a stop. T is a stop. Tot, T in tot is a stop. Here it is not an affricate because it is a palatalized aspirated stop. That means follow. It is a palatalized aspirated stop. Here it is an aspirated stop. In the last word it is an aspirated stop. So the consonant that receives the change is a final stop consonant which is influenced by the preceding consonant of the suffix, the first consonant of the suffix ninta. Later on, we will write a phonological rule for each process. Rule for nasalization. Let us start with vowel nasalization. Okay, the informal rule is as follows: the underlying plural suffix becomes a nasal vowel when it is attached to a nasal stem vowel. So the sound that undergoes the change is a vowel, and the unique identification of the vowel is plus high, minus low, minus round, minus back because it is high, front, and round vowel, minus nasal because in this language we have two types of phonemes, a nasal vowel and an oral vowel. It is an oral vowel. The arrow, it becomes plus nasal. Look that the change takes place only at the level of one feature, that is to say the nasal feature, from minus nasal to plus nasal. Slash, after slash we will have the context in which the change takes place. V, the sound, look, the sound that causes the change, the stem vowel that causes the change. It is plus nasal, okay, plus nasal, which means all the type of the vowel. Either they are back or round or unround, back or front. Okay, we mean all the vowel, all the nasal vowel in this language. Plus, this vowel is followed by a morpheme boundary. Plus is followed by a morpheme boundary because it is the last sound in the stem. Okay, the last sound in the stem. Look, see, the last sound of the stem is the nasal vowel. It's not followed by a consonant. Look, it's followed by a plus. It is a morpheme boundary. There is no consonant preceding the morpheme boundary. And after morpheme boundary, we have dash, which stands for the vowel that receives the change. That is to say, the high, front, and round oral vowel. The second rule is for consonant nasalization in Korean. The, the informal statement given is that in Korean, when the past tense suffix ninta is attached to the verb stem with a stop consonant, the stop consonant is nasalized. So, the sound that undergoes the change is a consonant, therefore we write C. And the consonant we are dealing with is a stop consonant. Therefore, we must give the unique identification of the stop consonant we are talking about. plus consonantal. Here we remove all the vowels minus syllabic. We remove all the semi-glide, semi-vowel or glide. Then minus sonorant. Here we mean all the obstruent consonants. We remove the sonorant consonant. And obstruent consonants are stop, fricative, and affricate. But here we need the identification of stop consonants. Therefore, we use minus continuant to remove the fricative sound. And then we add minus nasal because the sound that receives the change is not a nasal consonant, it is an oral. And then we add plus anterior to remove the affricate because affricate are minus anterior. So here we are talking only about we're only talking about stop consonant, and we use coronal and we use alpha because some of the stop are plus coronal and some of the stop are minus coronal. For example, in p it is minus coronal. In ip it is minus coronal. The word that means weird. In tat it is plus coronal. Therefore we have to use uh, plus we have to use alpha coronal that encode both plus coronal and minus coronal. This is the underlying representation of stop consonant in Korean. They become plus nasal. We use only the feature that exhibit the change from minus nasal to plus nasal. Here, the sound that undergoes the change precedes the sound that causes the change. Therefore, we have to use slash. We have to use dash after slash. The first symbol that should be used after slash is dash, which means the position of the sound that receives the change, the consonant. It is at the final position of the stem. It is at the final position of the stem. Therefore, we have to give plus morpheme boundary, the end of the stem, morpheme boundary. So the stop consonant is followed by a morpheme boundary, then followed by the sound that causes the change. It is the first consonant of the suffix. It is the first consonant of the suffix. Which consonant we are talking about? It is the nasal consonant. Therefore, we write plus consonantal, minus syllabic, plus sonorant, it is sonorant sound, plus nasal, plus coronal because it is alveolar. Here we exclude the labial nasal and the velar nasal. We are talking about n. Therefore, it is plus coronal. This is the phonological rule for consonant nasalization in Korean. Another phonological process that we should write a rule for it is dissimilation. And dissimilation is the opposite of assimilation. Dissimilation is the opposite of assimilation. Dissimilation means two sounds becomes less alike. Okay? The sound that triggers the change and the sound that receives the change are similar. And when they are in contact, one of them change to become less like the other. The one that receives the change, okay, becomes less like the other, becomes different from the other. Here we have data. We present data that explain dissimilation in a language, a Sundanese, which is an Austronesian language spoken in Indonesia. Look, in the data in A, we have singular and plural. We derive the plural form from the singular form. So take, for example, kusut, karusut. Kusut is an adjective, mean messy. The plural form of this adjective is karusut. By adding the infix are, the plural infix. In this language, to give the plural form, we insert the infix are, okay, after the first consonant, okay. Kusut, karusut, okay. Karusut is derived from kusut, and karusut is the plural of the singular form, kusut. The same for puhu, paruhu. Forget. The verb forget is singular, puhu. The plural form of forget is paruhu. That is to say, we infix are. The same for all the other words in the data in A. However, in the data in B, the infix is al. The last consonant of the infix is l and not r. Look, nirit, that means could. The plural of nirit is nalirit. Nugar, dalugar, and not narugar. Okay? So here, one of them is underlying, and one of them is allophonic. Importantly, the underlying suffix is r. Importantly, the underlying infix is r. And all is the different realization of the infix. Look, it is underlying because it is followed by different consonants. Look, in karasut, it is followed by a fricative and a stop. In paruhu, it is followed by a fricative and a glottal, fricative. In garatul, it's followed by obstruent consonant and followed by sonorant consonant. And it is l, okay, lateral liquid. In narrow pluk, it is followed by the lateral liquid and a stop. In naruliat, it's followed by lateral liquid and a stop. In charwan, it is followed by a glide and a nasal consonant. In marasak, the infix, the last consonant of the infix is followed by stop consonant. In the data in B, al is followed by r. 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 We have r. Whenever we have al, we have r in the stem. Okay. Look, in nirit there is r. In nugar there is r. In chambrek there is r. In botchar there is the rhotic liquid r. And the same for the last two words. So here what happens? We have dissimilation. We have dissimilation. When the last consonant of the infix, which is the rhotic liquid minus lateral liquid, the rhotic liquid, when it is followed by a rhotic liquid in the stem, it changes its feature to the opposite, from minus lateral to plus lateral. However, in the data in A, even if it is followed by a plus lateral liquid, even if it is followed by a plus lateral liquid as in garoto, the, the last consonant of the infix does not change. However, in the data in B, when it is followed by the non-lateral liquid, the last consonant of the infix changes its feature from minus lateral to plus lateral. That is to say, from R to L. In Sundanese, based on this description, we will give the informal rule. The plural is formed by infixing R after consonant. Rule for dissimilation in Sundanese. In Sundanese, the plural is formed by infixing R after the initial consonant. However, when another R follows within the stem, the R of the infix dissimilate to L. Look, for example, nirit plus R, the result is nalirit. Nirit plus the plural infix R, the result is nalirit. The last consonant of the infix changed from R to L because it is influenced by the following stem consonant, which is R. So the two consonants that are in contact are R of the infix and R of the stem. R of the infix and the R of the stem. The result is dissimilation because the two sounds become less like the other. That is to say, the sound that receives the change changes its feature from minus lateral to plus lateral. Change from R to L. This informal statement can be translated into a formal rule as follows. The sound that receives the change is the consonant of the infix, C. It is plus consonantal, minus syllabic, plus sonorant, minus nasal, minus lateral, okay, because it is a rhotic, it is the underlying representation, it is a rhotic liquid, minus lateral, plus anterior, plus coronal. This is the unique identification of the voiced rhotic liquid. This is the unique identification of the voiced rhotic liquid, R, minus lateral, okay. If we use plus lateral, we mean L, but underlyingly we are tackling the voiced rhotic liquid R. Therefore, we have minus lateral. It becomes plus lateral when it precedes a minus lateral consonant. Look, when it precedes, that's why we have that. This is the position of the sound that receives the change, the infix, plus, okay, plus for morpheme boundary, followed by morpheme boundary, then followed by the consonant that causes the change, C. That is to say, R of the stem consonant, that is plus consonantal, minus syllabic, plus sonorant, minus nasal, minus lateral, plus anterior, plus coronal, and then this is the phonological rule for dissimilation in Sundanese. Look, the underlying representation of the sound that receives the change has minus lateral feature. The underlying representation of the sound that causes the change has minus lateral feature. That is to say, the two sounds that receive and causes the change respectively have the same underlying representation. Have the same underlying representation. Okay? And when the stem consonant influences the infix consonant, the result is the opposite with respect to the lateral feature. That's why we have plus lateral, even if the underlying representation of both consonants is minus lateral. This is an example of dissimilation. Conclusion. By phonological rules, informal statements are converted into formal notation. This is what we mean by a phonological rule, is to translate the informal statement we derive it from the description of data given in any ordinary language, and then we convert this informal statement into formal notation. The informal rules are made by describing the phonological processes and the sounds undergoing changes in certain phonological contexts. Okay, uh, the basic element of making an informal statement is to focus on the sounds that trigger the change and the sound that undergoes the change. The notation must be suitable for expressing the kinds of phonological processes which take place in phonology. Each notation must be given or written or used to stand for a, uh, a specific type or a specific piece of information of phonological processes. Two important elements should be taken for granted when making feature-driven rules: change triggering sound and the change receiving sound.